All right, next one. We go to the Southern Hemisphere to a New Zealand producer called Sleeping Dogs. Now, Sleeping Dogs is owned by Roger Donaldson. This comes in at $29.99. Roger actually owns the vineyards and the winery down in Central Otago, New Zealand. Now, Central Otago is in the southern tip of the South Island. Everyone knows it from Lord of the Rings because that's where they filmed that amazing, amazing movie. The dramatic weather, the dramatic mountains, just a really pristine countryside. It looks like just virgin earth, and it really is. Really pure down there. You know, there's no effects of pollution or things like that. The sky, the air is beautiful. The light is amazing, and it's a perfect place for growing grapes. And they've gotten a lot of respect for their Pinot Noir, Riesling, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, etc. from down there. Pinot Noir is the flagship though. This is made by winemaker Dean Shaw. I said Roger Donaldson is the proprietor and the owner of the vineyards. And this is from Blair Gunblock, actually named after family members. Let's give it a sniff. You know, a lot of people say that wines are Burgundian or old world when they really aren't, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But this wine has some beautiful kind of earthy tones. You don't get a lot of those earthy flavors from a New World producer like this. Usually in a New World kind of setting, the fruit and the sun take center stage, and there's not a lot of secondary kind of earthy flavors. There's a lot of earthy aromas off this wine. This is kind of a combination of dried soil, almost a truffly flavor, with some beautiful floral, like red flowers like roses and red fruits. So much complex in this wine, it's unbelievable. The color, it's kind of a medium garnet like we talked about before, a little hint of pinkish orange on the rim, and just a beautiful, beautiful color. On the nose, it's got that earth, it's got spice, it's got floral and some fruit, really complex nose. Wow, that's amazing. It has the element of kind of a chalk stone, plus some beautiful red fruit flavors, a little bit crunchy, kind of like crunchy raspberry, crunchy cranberry, but also some beautiful red ripe tones too. Really complex. I'm tasting it for a long time. I spit it out, but I'm still tasting the flavors, and that's a great finish. When the acidity of a wine, the tannins of a wine, the alcohol of a wine, and the fruit flavors all kind of linger on the palate, that's great balance, and the longer it stays there, the longer the finish, obviously. My mouth is a little bit like watering, so it's great acidity. Not severe though, it's not harsh, but this is gonna be great with food. The nose is so interesting. I want to go back over and over again and smell what it's like and kind of pick it apart. So this is kind of like a wine drinker's wine, but also will be great with food, and it's ripe enough to drink by itself. You should definitely check this out. $29.99 from one of the most pristine growing regions on the planet, Central Otago. It's part of New Zealand, and from a great producer called Sleeping Dogs. Cool label too. We'll go here. We're going to California on this one. This is made by Steven Singer. Now, Steven Singer is a great restaurateur up in the Bay Area, San Francisco. His home ranch is in the Sonoma Coast outside of Russian River on a road called Baker Lane, thus the name Baker Lane. So Steven Singer is producer. This is the Ramondo Vineyard Pinot Noir, and Ramondo Vineyard actually is a vineyard that sits on Baker Lane about a quarter mile from Steven's house, so really local produced wine. Ramondo Vineyard Pinot Noir 2007. And a little bit darker than the others, kind of a medium to intense ruby, really dark color. A little bit of pink on the rim, kind of telling of its youth. On the nose, wow, just what you expect from Sonoma Coast. It's got these bright tones, a little bit of citrus blossom, a little bit of leafiness, some really expressive, almost cinnamon and clove flavors, and lots of ripe fruit, like red plums, kind of a spicy, almost spicy apple, and cherries. Just gorgeous, and there's a lot going on. And the color of it is going to tell me this is a pretty substantial wine. Let me give it a taste. Wow, really viscous on the palate, for Pinot Noir anyway. I mean, it's not Shiraz, but creamy on the palate, really velvety texture, and huge ripe red berry fruit flavors. Like red raspberries, almost like mixed with vanilla, and cherry, and very, very plump, juicy fruit. The finish is a little bit of a chalkiness, which kind of speaks to the soil. This producer, Steven Singer, he's a minimalist farmer, so he's gonna leave it alone, let the grapes get as ripe as possible, and then pick and make for balance. He's trained with some great chefs, and the chefs that he's taught and been exposed to have always been minimalistic in their impression of food, and I think this is great. The winemaker gets out of the way of the food and does a fantastic job of showing the greatness of the vineyard. This is a Pinot Noir with some medium to full intense flavors, flowers, spice, a little bit of vanilla, kind of tells me there's some new wood on there, and some fantastically ripe fruit. Again, a little bit of acidity on the palate, so it's gonna be a great food wine, but this is the ripest of the four to drink by itself. Would be delicious just by itself with you and someone you love. This is a fantastic wine. This is coming in at $41.99 and worth every penny from a small production producer like that. Really great. Now we're gonna go to our fifth wine, which is a rosé champagne from Pierre Morlaix. Pierre Morlaix is a very traditionalist producer in Champagne, France. They make 3 different wines. Their total production is less than 7,000 cases, and when you compare that to the big producers that you know of every day who run into the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of cases, this is a small boutique-y producer, really sexy wine. The winemaker, Pauline Morlaix, is actually related to Luc and Nick Morlaix of Peter Michael and the Morlaix Family Vineyards of California, and they have a long history together. Just fantastic wine. This is 100% Pinot Noir, made a brut champagne rosé style. The wine's been kept on its yeast for 3 years, so pretty much twice the legal requirement. And look at the color, that beautiful kind of like deep salmon color to it. This is made in a very slow way called saignée, which means that they actually soak the juice, which is clear, in contact with the skins, which are red, until just enough of the pigment gets exposed and gets pulled off the skins into the juice, and then they press all that juice away. This is the trickiest way to make rosé champagne. All the big producers can't do it because you get a couple vats with too much color and some vats with not enough. It's hard to keep it consistent. Only the truly small producers can do this, and it's fantastic. Color, like I said, that deep salmon color, just beautiful. Small, tiny bubbles, kind of speaks to the long, slow, cold temperatures that this wine sits in the cellars. Wow. Lots of citrus. Almost some dried tropical flavors too. Think of papaya and dried cantaloupe flavors. Lots of strawberry, hints of watermelon. This is a bone dry, this is a brut style of champagne, so it's gonna be dry, but it's got some really expressive from ripe flavors on the palate. Wow, that's delicious. Papaya, even some mango flavors, kind of tropical, with some dried cantaloupe, strawberries. In the finish, there's a little bit of watermelon. It's just beautiful, beautiful wine. There's lots of chalky minerality. The acid is beautiful. It's making my mouth water. It makes me think of food or to go back. With cheese, with turkey, with salmon, any kind of seafood this wine would be ridiculously good with. And it's just it's a wine you could talk about, and it's a wine that will change in the glass. Anyway, so this is our Pierre Morlaix Brut Rosé. It's called the Grand Reserve Rosé from Champagne from Morlaix. $44.99, and just a fantastic champagne for the holidays. And don't forget, when you're thinking about a food wine for the holidays or for whenever, that champagne as a style is probably more conducive and more compatible with more foods than any other style of wine out there. This wine will go well with steak like filet mignon. It will go well with any kind of seafood. This would go good with the most delicate food out there like raw oysters. And I don't know any other grape or any other style of wine that would go better with all those different styles of food than a rosé champagne. It really would go with everything. I can think of this with like I said, ribeye or filet mignon, all the way down to oysters. And this is the most versatile thing you can get. Also, with triple cream cheeses, there is nothing better than a champagne. That kind of soft, buttery texture is kind of cleansed away by the bubbles and the soft kind of acidity of these wines, and they're just perfect combinations. So when you're thinking about what to pair with your dinner, don't forget about champagne. Many people kind of pigeonhole it into as a celebratory drink, like after the game or anniversary or birthday, or God forbid with wedding cake. Like a brut champagne with wedding cake is a train wreck. It's ridiculous. Drink sweet wines with wedding cake, not a dry, great quality champagne like this. There are other things we'll talk about with that. But they pigeonhole champagnes in with these inappropriate kind of food matches or by themselves, and then very few people actually understand how a champagne can work with almost anything on your table. So remember champagne when you're thinking about food and wine pairing. Cheers.